This guy, he's stable, he's just too stable. Xu Jing sighed. If it weren't for Zhang Yi's constant reluctance to join Blizzard City, he would have wanted to recruit Zhang Yi under his command and cultivate him. He would definitely have become a capable general under his command. After Bian Zheng's death, his army's combat effectiveness had suffered a major blow. Without balance, his position could even become unstable. Zhang Yi, Zhang Yi. He muttered Zhang Yi's name, pondering what means he would use to win Zhang Yi over if the latter successfully completed his mission this time. Not long after Zhang Yi left the combat center, Bai Li Changqing arrived at his door. Upon meeting, Bai Li Changqing gave Zhang Yi a meaningful smile. Congratulations, you have finally become the captain of the investigation team. His eyes contained a lot of emotion. Thinking about it now, it is quite legendary that Zhang Yi was able to be promoted to captain of the investigation team as a foreigner from the outer city. Zhang Yi sensed his unusualness and guessed something in his heart. He asked, "So what about you? Have you lost your position as captain?" Bai Li Changqing shrugged helplessly. "I was only temporarily in charge of the captain's position in the first place. Now I have figured it out, don't take on a job you can't handle. For some time in the past, although I was the captain of the investigation squad, no one really treated me as the captain. It's still easier this way." Zhang Yi touched his nose. "It's not my fault." Bai Li Changqing nodded. "I understand. Fortunately, the living conditions of my family have not changed." Zhang Yi said, "I'm only the temporary captain. Once the Eclipse Moon mission is over, the Tengu squad may be disbanded. I will also step down, and I will recommend you to continue as captain." He smiled and put his arm around Bai Li Changqing's shoulders. "After all, we are familiar with each other. If I don't help you, who will? It is always easier to get things done if you have connections." Of course, he had to take care of Bai Li Changqing. Bai Li Changqing didn't say anything, as he had experienced this kind of thing once before and had many feelings in his heart. Only by having one's own strength is one able to gain the recognition of others. Take Zhang Yi, for example. As long as he is strong enough, even without connections or background, he will still be able to get the job done. This is the advantage of the end of the world. It has shattered the original social rules, and allows those from ordinary backgrounds but with abilities to get their chance to shine. Bai Li Changqing said to Zhang Yi, "You have just become the captain of the investigation squad, and there are some things you don't understand yet. I have been asked by the headquarters to give you an introduction to the duties and powers of the captain of the investigation squad. By the way, there are also two very important pieces of intelligence for you to deliver." Zhang Yi's face became serious when he heard the word intelligence. "What intelligence?" "One is the personal information of the members of the Tengu squad. As the captain, you need to understand their abilities in order to command them reasonably. As for the Black Robe squad, I'm here, and everyone knows your strength, so basically no one will have any objections to you being captain. But as for the Heavenly God squad, since Deng Shinteng's prestige is particularly high, the team members are also used to being arrogant. They may not be convinced that you, a foreigner from the outer city, can manage them." Bai Li Changqing gave him a wink. "If necessary, you can show them who's boss and give them a scare." Zhang Yi stared at Bai Li Changqing with a strange look in his eyes. My, you're really taking advantage of the situation. But if the Heavenly God squad really doesn't respect his management, Zhang Yi will have to give them a good education." "So, what about the other piece of information?" Bai Li Changqing slowly put away the smile on his face. "Second, it's the message Deng Shintong sent to headquarters before he died. This is a source secret about Eclipse Moon. In other words, Deng Shintong risked his life to obtain this information." Zhang Yi's face grew grave. He really knew nothing about the leader of Eclipse Moon, Phoenix Ren. His abilities, his strength, were all a mystery to him. Although Deng Shintong had lost to him, with his strength, Deng Shintong would definitely be able to force Phoenix Ren to reveal enough of his cards. This piece of information is extremely crucial. "Xinxin, come over here and take a look." Zhang Yi asked Yang Xinxin, who was hugging Flower, to come into the living room to help analyze the information. Bai Li Changqing found a suitable position and began to play the image data on the laptop. "Let's watch the data sent back by Deng Shintong first," Zhang Yi said. Bai Li Changqing nodded, and then found the data. Zhang Yi sat on the sofa and pushed a glass of water from the table to Bai Li Changqing's side. Then the three of them intently watched the screen. This was the last piece of footage left behind by Deng Shintong. Most of the front part of it was blank. This was because Deng Shintong had used his ability to distort light, so that no recording device could capture an accurate image. All that could be heard was the sound. However, based on the few conversations between the two of them, some information could still be obtained. This part is the ability of Phoenix Ren to be reborn after death. Immortal? Indeed, it is a very troublesome ability. Zhang Yi frowned slightly. How exactly do you deal with someone who cannot be killed? Although he does not believe that anyone can truly be immortal. Every time Phoenix Ren regenerates, he must consume supernatural energy or something else. But who knows where his limits lie? Moreover, from the sounds of the battle, it could be deduced that he was on par with Deng Shintong in close combat. After a long time, the white light that enveloped everything slowly faded away. In its place was an endless red inferno. Zhang Yi saw Deng Shintong, who was wrapped in flames and in extreme pain. He also saw the terrifying figure of a body, wrapped in flames. Phoenix Ren sneered and charged over again and again. Even so, Deng Shintong still had not lost the ability to resist. The white light of the holy body blessing fought against the flames of the phoenix, and he was also fighting fiercely against Phoenix Ren. Deng Shintong killed Phoenix Ren again and again. However, Phoenix Ren got up again and again. Deng Shintong's voice came through the image and reached the ears of the three people. This guy, where's his weak point? Is it true that he cannot die? No. This is absolutely impossible. There's no such thing as an immortal carbon-based life form in this world. There must be something that I haven't discovered yet. But, am I really going to lose? No, there's something wrong. I shouldn't have lost. How could I have lost? Although his abilities are abnormal, I'm stronger than him. But I really did lose. There must be something wrong. Ah. So that's it. I understand everything. There's a traitor in Blizzard City. Someone leaked my abilities. When he heard Deng Shintong say this sentence with his own mouth, Zhang Yi's hand holding the cup involuntarily tightened. His sword eyebrows stood upright, and the suspicion in his heart was infinitely magnified. There was really a mole inside Blizzard City? Yang Xinxin's gaze was fixed on the screen, but her expression was unusually calm. But Zhang Yi knew that she was also thinking frantically inside. Bai Li Changqing's expression was as usual, and it was obvious that this was not the first time he had watched the video. Zhang Yi muttered to himself, so, the Blizzard City executives must have seen it too. Zhu Jing has seen it, and so has Dang Yuanbua. They all suspect that Blizzard City has a traitor. Is that why they are so eager to nominate me as the captain of the Tengu? Or are they setting me up to lure out the traitor? No, I can't trust anyone. Not even Zhu Jing. Zhang Yi felt like a headless chicken. As an outsider, he didn't understand the ins and outs. He didn't even know anything about the power struggle between the major factions in Blizzard City. Therefore, he couldn't make any rash comments. However, he had to do his best to avoid getting involved. Zhang Yi quickly gathered his thoughts and continued watching the video. In the video, it was clear that Deng Shintong was already tottering and could no longer hold on. Facing Phoenix Ren, who could come back from the dead, Deng Shintong had no way to counteract him at the moment. However, Phoenix Ren seemed to know everything about his abilities and even the way he attacked. In the end, as his strength failed him, he collapsed among the ruins. His weak voice came through. Listen. I, cough. Know his abilities. He can see the future and see the way I attack. Remember, be careful of this. You have to use the law of cause and effect against him. In the image, a huge flaming fist smashed towards his face. Let Zhang Yi. Deng Shintong left those last three words, and then the image was completely engulfed in white light. Everyone knows that that was the bomb used by a captain-level figure when they choose to blow themselves up. The video footage of Deng Shintong ended here. Zhang Yi crossed his arms in front of him and hung his head in deep thought. The last image left by Deng Shintong revealed too much information. Can Phoenix Ren see through Deng Shintong's future? This ability, combined with the attribute of immortality, is simply despairing. In his last sentence, let Zhang Yi. An incomplete sentence with only 3 words, but it pushed Zhang Yi to the front of the Blizzard City hierarchy. The law of cause and effect. Zhang Yi understood the meaning of these words in his heart. If he had guessed correctly, there was a very powerful law of cause and effect present in Zhang Yi's body. It could even reverse the cycle of life and death. At one point, he had thought that the reason he was able to come back from the dead was because he had awakened a special supernatural ability. It was just that he had not yet discovered it. Zhang Yi had a sudden urge. Should I go to the Deng family and ask for their help in the future? At this time, Bai Li Changqing's voice echoed in his ears. After watching it, what did you gain? Zhang Yi turned his head and looked at him, smiling faintly. The gains are too great. I didn't expect the opponent to be such a nuisance. Bai Li Changqing said, however, Deng Shintong mentioned at the end that you could deal with him. He didn't finish talking, so don't speculate. Bai Li Changqing laughed, however, and said, 4 of the 5 people who died in the Eclipse Moon formation were killed by you. It is now basically certain that the opponent has a mutant who can predict the future. But you have influenced the cause and effect, which proves that you are their nemesis. Zhang Yi said, but that alone is not enough. How can you win if you can't kill them? Bai Li Changqing asked, can you not seal him in your dimensional space? Zhang Yi said, dimensional space does not have the ability to actively collect living things. It is driven by thoughts. My thoughts are only effective on inanimate objects. As for living people, unless they are willing to enter dimensional space on their own, they cannot be collected forcibly. Bai Li Changqing slapped his thigh, that's easy. Just smash him up and throw him into dimensional space, and you're done. Zhang Yi gave Bai Li Changqing a deep look. Are you even speaking in complete sentences? Do you think I'm Deng Shintong? Deng Shintong could kill Phoenix Ren dozens of times because he had an incredibly powerful attack. But Zhang Yi was good at defense. It would be difficult for him to kill Phoenix Ren even once. Not to mention Phoenix Ren's ability to predict the opponent's actions, it was hard to say if it would work on Zhang Yi. Just as the two were discussing, Yang Xinxin suddenly spoke up, offering a thought-provoking idea. I remember that when Deng Shintong fought Phoenix Ren, the shrine maiden Mayumi Takeuchi was also there. Zhang Yi and Bai Li Changqing looked at her. So what? Are you saying that she had an impact on the battle? Yang Xinxin bit her pink fingernail. Phoenix Ren's abilities are from the trait system, immortality, regeneration, fire, and superb physical strength. According to our understanding of supernatural abilities, it is impossible for him to have the ability of the time system at the same time. So I guess Mayumi Takeuchi gave him this ability. In other words, if we can get rid of her first, then we can at least reduce Phoenix Ren's combat effectiveness by 30%. This suggestion instantly opened up a new line of thought for Zhang Yi. Indeed, it is a highly probable possibility. After some discussion, the group gained a lot of information from the footage left behind by Deng Shintong. Bai Li Changqing smiled and said, actually, you don't need to put too much pressure on yourself. The source of this operation is to block the prediction ability of the Shrine Maiden from Eclipse Moon. As for dealing with Phoenix Ren, there is someone more suitable than you. Zhang Yi's eyes narrowed, you mean Gao Changkong? Bai Li Changqing nodded without hesitation. Gao Changkong's abilities are actually very suitable for dealing with Phoenix Ren. Of course, I can't tell you what his abilities are right now. But if I'm right, he will be the leader of this operation. And you, as before, will be more of a support to him. Bai Li Changqing was a good friend of Gao Changkong's and a fan of his. Combined with his knowledge of Gao Changkong's abilities and his partial knowledge of Zhang Yi's abilities, he was convinced that headquarters would let Gao Changkong lead the next mission to eradicate the Eclipse Moon. Zhang Yi gazed off into the distance without refuting Bai Li Changqing's words. Theoretically, there was nothing wrong with what Bai Li Changqing said. But Bai Li Changqing was, after all, just a soldier, and he didn't understand anything about power struggles. Gao Changkong did have better combat training and command capabilities than Zhang Yi. However, his status meant that he could not be the leader of this operation. To achieve great success and thereby threaten the leadership is the greatest taboo for subordinates throughout the ages. To put it bluntly, even if Gao Changkong does the most, Blizzard City will focus on praising Zhang Yi's achievements, not his. We'll see. Zhang Yi slapped his thigh. By the way, I'm now the captain of the Tengvu squad, so can I get captain-level weapons and equipment? He pointed his finger at Yang Xinxin. I also have 3 helpers by my side. They will also be temporarily incorporated into the Tengvu squad, and I have already spoken to Commander Zhu about this. So they also need to receive equipment. Bai Li Changqing nodded. No problem. Just let me know what equipment you need, and I will have someone deliver it. Zhang Yi's smile grew wider and wider at the corner of his mouth. He shook his head. No, we'd better go there ourselves. After all, I need more weapons. Bai Li Changqing's eyes slowly widened as he looked at Zhang Yi, who was smiling strangely, as if he had guessed what the guy was going to do. Not long after, Zhu Zheng, who was still working in the office, received a report from the quartermaster. What? Zhang Yi collected a large quantity of weapons? An extremely large quantity? Commander Zhu, he used his supernatural powers of space to collect a large quantity of weapons. The quantity is a bit ridiculous. The quartermaster whispered in the corner, unable to help but turn his head to look inside the warehouse at Zhang Yi, who was doing some serious shopping. This is an emergency, Commander Zhu, he said in tears. After so many years as a quartermaster, this was the first time he had encountered such a way of collecting supplies. It was as if he were a woman shopping at a discount supermarket. Zhu Jing thought about it and shook his head with a smile. This kid really lives by the spirit of anyone who doesn't take advantage of a bargain is a bastard. Never mind, just give him as much as he needs. After all, they were just ordinary hot weapons, and in the end times, the power of these weapons had been greatly weakened. Moreover, they weren't difficult to make, all you needed was iron and gunpowder, and you could even say that there was an endless supply of them. the quartermaster said to Zhang Yi. There are also heavy machine guns over here. Take a look. Zhang Yi waved his hand and told him with a smile. Great. I'll take all of it. Zhang Yi finished collecting a large amount of equipment and returned to the villa in Area A. Later, Zhu Xing will officially announce the formation of the Tengu squad and appoint Zhang Yi as its captain. These things did not concern Zhang Yi. The reputation of Blizzard City was not something he valued. However, he was still quite worried about Liang Yu's situation. Although rationally, he understood that the Deng family could not do anything to Liang Yu at this time. But the long-standing habit of caution has never made him give up his sense of worry. It was a little after 9 o'clock in the evening when Liang Yu called Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi answered the phone immediately. Liang Yu, how are you doing? Do you feel anything unusual? On the other end of the line, Liang Yu was surrounded by a dozen staff members in white protective clothing, and behind her was a huge blue experimental chamber. The staff were still preparing for the final work. Liang Yu felt Zhang Yi's concern in his tone and her heart warmed. She said, the preliminary preparations are complete, and next I will enter the experimental capsule they have prepared for me. The experiment will last 3 days and I won't be able to get out until then. I won't be able to contact you during that time. Zhang Yi was silent for a moment, wanting to say something like take care but not sure if it was appropriate. After a long pause, he said, I'll wait for you to come back. Liang Yu's smile deepened, yeah. After the brief conversation between the two was over, Liang Yu handed her phone to the staff member, who took it and sealed it away in a safe. Then a female staff member came over and asked Liang Yu to lie down in the experimental capsule. Liang Yu nodded and did as she was told. Outside the laboratory, on the second floor, Deng Yuanbo, Lianqing, and the head of the laboratory were watching the scene. The person in charge asked Deng Yuanbo, Chairman, do we really have to use up the level A source supply? Experiments of this level are also extremely costly for us. It is even second only to the cultivation of the young master in the beginning. Deng Yuanbo narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, just do as I say. In business, the large initial investment is for the continuous and abundant returns later. We cannot lose this operation against Eclipse Moon again. Moreover, I will also take this opportunity to root out the mole in Blizzard City. A fierce look flashed in the eyes of Deng Yuanbo. Although Zhang Yi knew that this method of rapidly enhancing the strength of mutants would consume a lot of energy, he had no idea just how terrifying that consumption would be. The higher the talent of a mutant, the greater the consumption in enhancing their strength, including the consumption of energy in the middle. It is no exaggeration to say that the resources consumed in upgrading the abilities of a mutant of Liang Yu's level could even create 10 mutants of the investigation squad level. This is the price of forcing growth. If they are not true geniuses, being forced to upgrade their abilities in this way will only exhaust their potential. However, Deng Yuanbo was not worried at all about Liang Yu. Her body and her will have both been tempered through countless trials. After collecting his weapons, Zhang Yi returned to the villa in Area A and began to study and analyze ways to deal with Eclipse Moon with Yang Xinxin while eating dinner. He didn't know anything about fighting, but he had a lot of experience fighting mutants. The information Deng Shintong had risked his life to retrieve was very crucial. It was clear that Phoenixren was a very difficult opponent to deal with. He had the ability to never die, superb melee combat capabilities, and the blessing of a shamaness who could see the future. When these conditions are combined, the result is overwhelming. However, as long as the ability exists, the method to deal with him must also exist. Zhang Yi must find a way to restrain Phoenixren and the other powerful mutants under his command before considering action. Fortunately, these days, Eclipse Moon is also in a state of recuperation, and they still have some time to prepare. Xinxin, can you guess what the people from Eclipse Moon are doing right now? Zhang Yi asked. Eclipse Moon had been missing for almost a week since the battle in Jiangning City. The use of the Reaper of Love had caused the electromagnetic systems in most of the Jiangnan region to lose their effectiveness. And there was no way of knowing where Eclipse Moon was. But everyone understood that Eclipse Moon would definitely make a comeback. Otherwise, they would not have risked crossing the sea. Zhang Yi believes that we must understand their logic in order to prepare in advance. Yang Xinxin said leisurely, in the last battle, they lost 5 people. Although in the end, they won a Pyrrhic victory and the siege of the Jiangnan region failed, but in terms of the strength of the two sides, they did not necessarily win the duel. The Jiangnan region has a deep foundation, and after the Heavenly God Squad was defeated, they still have other forces they can mobilize. However, Eclipse Moon will have difficulty replacing their forces. Therefore, she looked at Zhang Yi, her eyes shining like dark stars. I suspect that the next time they come, they will definitely bring reinforcements. Zhang Yi crossed his arms in front of him. Reinforcements? Their comrades in Neon? Although from an intelligence perspective, Eclipse Moon belonged to an elite squad structure and did not have any other comrades. But as a member of the landing faction, there must be rogues who share the same ideas as them. Seeing how Eclipse Moon has caused a huge stir in the Jiangnan region, maybe someone is tempted to follow in their footsteps and try to get a piece of the pie. Yang Xinxin, however, said, in the future, the opponents we will face could come from any force. Since the day the Ice Age began, the world has been completely different. The Huashu Kingdom is lucky. We have the world's top power and can maintain our base. But most of the southeastern region is full of small countries that don't have the natural power to hold their territory together and have therefore collapsed. If I'm not wrong, the southeastern region, including the southern seas, is in a complete mess. There are even more private military organizations than there are cattle. Those vicious people are likely to harass the border. It is also possible to be influenced by those under the Eclipse Moon. Zhang Yi sighed, that's why I hate those snakes and rats. Although they are not necessarily lethal, their sheer numbers can be annoying. The only good news is that those areas are relatively fragmented. For one thing, the population is not large, and the combined population of some of the smaller countries was not even as high as that of Tianhai City. Second, their technology is relatively outdated. Therefore, in such areas, the possibility of producing high-level mutants is relatively low. Just as Zhang Yi was pondering the next round of the plan to encircle and annihilate Eclipse Moon, there were surging undercurrents in Blizzard City, and no one was idle. Everyone had set their sights on Eclipse Moon. Perhaps to ordinary people, the existence of Eclipse Moon was a disgrace that they must wash away with their blood. But to the various factions in Blizzard City, this was a power struggle. Everyone knows that if they can defeat Eclipse Moon, they will gain enormous prestige in Blizzard City and increase the power of their faction. In response, Zhu Xing summoned the entire senior management of Blizzard City. The content of the meeting was the plan for the next siege of Eclipse Moon. The following day, the Combat Command Center was exceptionally lively. There were a very large number of participants, and all the important people in Blizzard City had come. Not only Zhu Zheng, Tu Yunlai, and others, but also some middle and senior management personnel were also present. The meeting room of the senior management of the Combat Command Center was very lively, with hundreds of people. This kind of gathering of this scale is extremely rare in the history of Blizzard City. Zhang Yi appeared on the scene with Yang Xinxin. His reputation was not prominent, and it was only after the last siege operation when he killed 4 Eclipse Moons that he caught the attention of certain people. However, when he appeared at the venue, not many people eagerly greeted him. At most, they exchanged polite greetings, nodding and smiling politely. After all, Zhang Yi's identity was that of an outsider from the outer city. This identity determined that he would have difficulty entering the true core of Blizzard City in the future. Zhang Yi didn't care about the attitude of these people either. He never liked dealing with these people, and it was better if they didn't bother him. However, Zhang Yi noticed that there were clearly 2 lively circles in the meeting place. One circle was centered around Tu Yunlai, the head of the operations department. He always dressed in military uniform, with half his face always covered by his collar, giving off an unfathomable sense of mystery. The other circle was the Reincarnation Squad circle led by Gao Changkong. Both circles have gathered quite a few people, and they are discussing how to get a share of Eclipse Moon's wealth, barely keeping their voices down. Minister 2, we will fully support you in this operation to surround and attack Eclipse Moon. Your abilities are obviously superior to those of the investigation team captains. If it weren't for that, how could you be given the most important task of defending Blizzard City? It's just that the investigation teams are more well-known. They don't really think that you are weaker than them, do they? This siege of Eclipse Moon is of great significance to the Jiangnan region. As a top combatant, you must step in to ensure the success of the operation. I will go speak to Commander Zhu. Tu Yunlai was surrounded by a few senior executives of Blizzard City. They included the heads of the administrative and financial departments, all of whom were dressed in suits. Tu Yunlai didn't say much, and his expression was as cold as usual, but he politely bowed his head to thank them. Gao Changkong, on the other hand, brought along his deputy captains, Jiushen and Gu Man. Compared to Tu Yunlai, he had a much larger circle of people. Gao Changkong was generally well-liked, being friendly and approachable. Moreover, among the lower and middle classes of Blizzard City, his voice carried the most weight. Except in the eyes of some women, he is slightly inferior to the super-rich second-generation Deng Shintong, and there are few people in the entire Blizzard City whose popularity can be compared to his. Captain Gao, you must bear the burden this time. I hope you can live up to your mission and successfully complete it. As long as you succeed this time, even if you come from a lowly background, you can rely on this achievement to rise up. With our support, you may even be able to enter the core of power in Blizzard City in the future. Gao Changkong looked embarrassed. You are joking, everyone. I, Gao Changkong, have no other thoughts. As a soldier, my duty is to protect the safety of the Jiangnan region and maintain the glory that belongs to the Jiangnan region. For this reason, I will mercilessly eliminate any enemy that comes to invade. His gaze was sharp as a sword when he mentioned Eclipse Moon. The representatives of the factions around him who supported him were very satisfied with his attitude and nodded with a smile. Zhang Yi and the others arrived early, so they found a place to wait. Gao Changkong suddenly noticed Zhang Yi was sitting behind him. Captain Zhang, long time no see. Zhang Yi stared at Gao and replied. Long time no see, Captain Gao.